What's up YouTube? How are you doing today? Chana D, your Techno Dad here, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up Zone 2 and still keep your 5.1.2 Dolby Atmos. We're going to get into it right after the jump. And I'm back. Now, if you're new to the channel and you want to learn about 4K, home theater, and audio products and how to set them up properly, you should consider subscribing because I'm here to help. Now that housekeeping is out of the way, let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you haven't seen the new unboxing and Dolby Atmos setup for the Onkyo TX-NR676, definitely check out in the description the link for that, and I'll put a card up here as well. And since I got that AV receiver to test out Dolby Atmos and just to check out how everything sets up, and you know, it's a mid-range AVR. It was $549, but I picked it up for $349. It's pretty great deal if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking to upgrade, get into Atmos a little bit. And well, one of my subscribers had this question. He wanted to work out how to do Zone 2 and keep Atmos. So I figured out how to do all that, but why don't we jump into how to set up Zone 2 first, okay? And then we'll get into the advanced Zone 2. So first, why would you want Zone 2? Basically put, if you have your music library or all your music equipment in one room and have, like, say, a sitting room or a family room where you want to have a pair of speakers, well, you can, you know, put two speaker wires, you know, connected to the Zone 2 and run those into the other room. Like last night, my wife wanted to watch this movie. I wasn't too into it, but I wanted to listen to some music, so I could have easily kept her surround Blu-ray disc, you know, whatever she was watching, going on in the main room, and in Zone 2 I could be listening to music. And even if she changed like her input, if she was done with the movie and went to TV or whatever, my music is still not interrupted down in the other room or wherever it happens to be. So, perfect example. You got kids and you and the wife want to listen to some music and the kids want to watch some movie. There you go. Zone 2 is your best friend. Alright, so let's look at the TX-NR677. Now, it does have 7 channels powered, but you can actually connect 9 speakers at a time. And those other 2 speakers are Zone 2. Okay, so you can connect 9 speakers, but it'll only power 7. So if you're using 7 for 7.1 or you're using it for 5.1.2, either way, when Zone 2 is on, you lose power to your height channels or your surround back. That's really what happens. Okay, so before we get started on how to connect everything, here's a quick list of the extra equipment I moved up to the living room to do this test. Alright, first of all, we got speakers. I needed a couple extra speakers, had these Klipsch RP250S laying around. Now, along with the speakers, I got a couple RCA cables and a couple of speaker cables. Now, I'm using these SVS cables, and I'll definitely put links in the description to everything I'm talking about, so don't worry about that. All the information is going to be down in the description box. So I needed to test an analog source, so I brought up the Technics SL1200 M3D along with my brand new shiny 200 gram orange vinyl of Jimi Hendrix Access Bold as Love. You know, once I hear Jimi Hendrix, you know, coming through the speakers, then I'll figure out just exactly how this Onkyo functions. And I brought up the Parasound Halo integrated amplifier. Now we got all the components here, let's jump in and connect up the speakers for Zone 2. So all we need to do is plug in speaker wire to those terminals and then plug in those speaker cables into the speakers. Pretty straightforward. I had the Dolby Atmos demo disc just playing on Play All or Retail Loop, I forget which one, it just kind of goes through all of them. Here is what the Onkyo is saying. It's saying 5.1.2. Now this is before we do anything, okay? Now let's go into the setup menu and go to speakers and go to configuration. Now at the top you see 5.1.2 and the bottom or toward the bottom you see Zone 2 off. So let's go down and turn Zone 2 on. Okay, so now Zone 2 is on. Now if we go back out of this and hit the info button again, we're still getting 5.1.2. So it's all good, right? So how do we turn on Zone 2? Let's go to the front of the AVR and press the Zone 2 button. If you don't remember where the Zone 2 button is, here's a little quick shot of the buttons we're going to use. We're going to use Zone 2, we're going to use Zone 2 off, and we're going to use all of the source buttons and the volume knob. These are all the buttons that we're going to use to operate Zone 2. So when we press Zone 2, it says Zone 2 off, and right now all we need to do is hit the source button for Zone 2, in this case phono. So I hit phono, and guess what happens? I got Jimi Hendrix playing on the clip speakers. Okay, great. So now adjusting the volume on Zone 2 is pretty easy. When you hit Zone 2 and select your source, whether it's phono, CD, or whatever, and you change the volume knob right then and there, you'll see Zone 2 volume, and you change the volume. Pretty simple. Now if you wait until it goes back to, let's say, Blu-ray disc was our main room source, when it goes back to Blu-ray disc and you change the volume, you're changing the volume of the main room. So to change the volume again, you have to hit Zone 2 and then change the volume on the volume knob. Now you can do this in the remote, and it's kind of convoluted, so the easiest thing to do is probably just set the volume for room 2 and you're good to go. Now let's go back to the TV and hit Info to see where we're at on our Atmos track. And as you can see, the Atmos is gone. We're down to a 5.1. We've been demoted to 5.1. Okay, so this is all normal functionality. This is exactly how everything is supposed to work. So, what do we need to do to keep both Zone 2 on and keep that 5.1.2 Atmos track going in the main room? Alright, so let's go back to the back panel of the NR676. Now as you notice over here by the subwoofer output, we have pre-outs for Zone 2. And this is what's going to do it. Now if you have a different manufacturer of AV receiver, you will still be able to get full Atmos and Zone 2 if your AV receiver has Zone 2 pre-outs. And this is why I brought the Halo integrated amp upstairs to check this out. Now on the back of the Halo, we do have these two RCA inputs called theater bypass. And what that does is it bypasses all the volume control and the preamp stage of the Halo integrated amp. So you're plugging directly into the amplifier. Alright everyone, so I've got everything hooked up. Zone 2 pre-outs to the theater bypass on the Halo integrated. The clip speakers on the dining table are now plugged into the Halo integrated as opposed to the Zone 2 terminals on the back of the Onkyo. Then I hit Zone 2 to turn it on, and I was in for a treat. The volume was coming through at full blast on the clip speakers on the dining table, so Jimi Hendrix was rocking out. I didn't know what to do with this, so I quickly turned off Zone 2. What ended up happening is, through the pre-outs, there is no volume control. I would turn the volume up and down, but I think that's still connected to the Zone 2 terminals on the back of the Onkyo. I checked it out. I turned on Zone 2, and then I went and hit display or info on the Onkyo to see what our Dolby Atmos disc was doing, and we're still downgraded at the 5.1. We don't have 5.1.2 and Zone 2 going. So I had to reconfigure a few things. First of all, the Halo integrated. I moved the theater bypass RCAs into just the regular input number 5 analog input on the Halo integrated. So that way I have volume control. And then what I also figured out after a little while, it took me kind of a minute to figure this out. We need to go back into setup, speakers, pick configuration, and go to Zone 2 and turn it off. I realized that this configuration screen is actually the same thing as amp assign. Now with this figured out, we are good to go. So, Zone 2 outputs to input number 5 analog on the Halo integrated. I've got Zone 2 on, I've got volume control on the Zone 2 through the Halo integrated, and I've got 5.1.2 going on the Dolby Atmos demo disc in the main room. Now if you're just wondering about changing the volume on the Onkyo for Zone 2, you can't do that. When you press Zone 2 and turn the volume like you normally would, and it would just say Zone 2 volume and it'll give you the number readout of the volume, it doesn't. It says power Zone 2 not activated. At least I think that's what ACT means. At first I thought it was not attached, but I think it's ACT. I think that's activated. So you definitely need something that will control the volume. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So to recap, if you want Dolby Atmos 5.1.2, do not turn Zone 2 on in your speaker configuration menu, which is actually the amp assign menu. Okay? Do not turn that on. Connect the RCA from the Zone 2 pre-outs to pretty much an integrated amplifier is what you're going to need. Okay? You're going to need an integrated amplifier because you're going to need something to power the speakers, and you need volume control. Otherwise, it's just going to send a full signal, and it's going to be kind of crazy. Is this for you? Do you need this? You could. And what are some options about going about this? Now, if you've upgraded from an older receiver and maybe some older speakers, and you have your old AV receiver and your old speakers hanging out, and you can put that in another room and they look okay, and you get, wifey says, yeah, and all that good stuff, you can just, snake a, thin pair of RCA cables all the way to that other room, and you can play whatever in your library, and then you have volume control in that room, and you got your old speakers, and you're still using that setup. And if your friend comes by and wants, you're in there and the kids are in the other room or wife's in the other room, and they're like, oh hey, let me plug in my phone, I gotta play this track, boom, you can do that as well. So that's also really cool, since there's like an interface in that second room. Otherwise you'd have to go to the to the main room and then try to juggle all that while somebody else is still watching whatever content it is they're watching. Another situation is, let's say you have a pair of speakers, but you don't have an amplifier there. There's a couple of integrated amplifiers I saw on Amazon. I'll put them down in the description. There's like an Onkyo one that's $349, and there's also a Yamaha one that's also $349. All right, so now let's check out scenario number 3. You don't have anything extra, but what you need is speakers, you need amplification, and you need volume control. Well, then you've entered into the world of powered speakers. I know there's a pair of Klipsch for $349, so same as that Yamaha or Onkyo amplifier. That'll get everything done, and it'll actually allow you to plug in like a phono or line input, and even like USB. So you've got a lot of things covered there, and you've got volume control. Now if you have a little bit more budget, and I would recommend this, is checking out the Klipsch, the 6s. They look really nice, have that vintage, like that heritage Klipsch look. They also have Bluetooth, and they have a little bit more connections, and it looks a little bit nicer. They are on sale for $5.99. Links will be down in the description. But that's another route to go if you want to add second zone for whatever kind of room. And I think what the cool part with these powered speakers now is, if you're getting into vinyl and you're in that other room, maybe you can get a small record player, put that in between the speakers, so now you've got records, you've got Bluetooth, so you can connect your phone to it, and you've got, through the RCA jack, your Zone 2 from your main system that could have your CD player or your network player, or anything like that, that you can route through the Onkyo to go to Zone 2. Pretty cool, huh? Just took me like a whole afternoon and a whole fiddling around for me to figure it out. But it's very cool, that these AV receiver manufacturers offer this. So if you have a 7-channel amplifier with a Zone 2, mainly Zone 2 pre-outs, then you can definitely get this going. With the other AV receivers I'll be picking up, I will be testing this out and reporting back to you guys, how everything works. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked it, go ahead and smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel using the button in the middle of your screen. Once again, my name is Chana D. I'm your Techno Dad, and I'll see you next time.